So there's a story about high-performing teams. Back in the day, in the year 2000, I had a friend called Hannes who was given a job of selling something like 800,000 desktop computers. And this was at the time where laptops had just been created. And so the company involved, that will remain nameless, was very concerned that they wanted to get rid of these desktops. They had been produced for the CEE, Central Eastern and European market. So they were low CPU, basic functionality, and cheap. Yeah. And he was given the job of selling all of them. So he said, can I create my own team? Do I have to follow your processes? And the company allowed him to choose his own team, and they allowed him to work through a business partner organization so that he didn't have to use the strict company processes, because otherwise it would have been very difficult to do contracting. So he chose a bunch of his friends, and they all moved to Budapest and got a big apartment, 300 square meter apartment with loads of rooms. In the top floor they lived. On the second floor, that was the office. And in the bottom floor was an Irish pub. To this day, they are convinced that the Irish pub was the main source of all of their creativity. And they began working together, a group of 8 people. From the very beginning, they were very concerned that they had so much knowledge that they needed to learn, that they needed a sensible way of learning all of this stuff. The lead, Hannes, put them into groups of 2 immediately. He said, we will work in pairs. Every week we will swap those pairs. And for the first 3 months, they were very strict about this. And then it moved over to a 2-week process. And they didn't have their own jobs. They chose their tasks on a weekly basis, and they did them in groups of 2. So it was 2 people working on one set of topics during the week. And they literally did it together. They even did it according to the original extreme programming method, which was 2 people, 1 laptop. So they shared a laptop in order to do the work, which meant they were constantly discussing and speaking to each other. To this date, this is the best form of forming that I've ever experienced. Yeah, 2 people with 1 laptop and 1 keyboard in order to do their work. Highly intensive. Yeah. The reason that you don't see it today is because it's too intensive. People can't work together for that long. That means you literally end up working for 8 hours a day. Last week, I was in a company. You'll love this. I asked them how much time, if they were really being realistic, how many hours per day they worked. And one person said 4 hours. The majority of them said around 2.5 to 3 hours a day. Yeah. I said, what do you do for the rest of the time? They said, well, meetings, coffee, lunch, there's a lot of meetings, coffee and lunch that you need to have. But in a pair programming, extreme programming model where 2 people are working on the same task together, they literally work for 7 or 8 hours in a 7 or 8 hour day. Yeah. And they normally work through lunch as well. It's that intensive. Yeah? Very interesting. So, they were working together all of the time. They were intensely communicative about the goals and the purpose of the team. They argued and fought in the Irish pub all the time. They became instantly famous in the organization. Everybody wanted to join their team. So they were like a nucleus of great activity. Everybody went to Budapest to meet them and to see if they could be a part of the success that they were having. They sold all of their machines in the first half of the year. They oversold, and the organization had to make an additional 800,000 machines in order to come true on the promises that they had made. The team lived for 1.5 years, and then it was disbanded. 25 years later, I'm still in touch with a couple of these guys from that team. With Nusha, with Mitya, with Aleš and Dubi. Couple of Slovenians, couple of Zagrebians and a Russian, and a chap from Budapest and Austria. And I asked them the question, does anything come close to that experience? And they answer with the words, no, nothing ever comes close to the way that we were, to that experience. They speak about it almost in semi-religious tones. Yeah, they speak about this as being the best time of their life and time of their working experience. Yeah. So those days have gone, right? to a lot of all intents and purposes, most organizations don't even want to create teams like this. But back in the day, it used to be a concept that companies would invest money in trying to achieve that. Large organizations had concepts such as the A team, the Delta team. They would give them names like this. They would allow these teams to come together and to be formed. Yeah. Today, there is a concept that one of our clients has a concept called a value creation team. Yeah. Are these real teams in the way that we've just described? Well, hopefully, because you're certainly setting a precedent when you call a team the A team or a value creation team. But the reality of the world that it is at the moment, that not many teams are like this, but young people would like to be a member of those teams, and leaders would do well to try and promote them and try and promote the desire, if not the actual reality of it. So once again, focus on your pairs, because your pair work will get you there quicker than focusing on high-performing teams, and is a very achievable and tangible goal for all leaders to set.